नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यागति पाश्चात्यादिसुधारिणे Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Radha Krishna Radha Govinda Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Rajbhumi Vrindavan Dhama Ki Jai Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Gangamaya Munamaya Ki Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Ki Srimati Bhakti Vrinda Ki Raja Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Vividama Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagna Ki Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Govinda Mandir New York Yatra Dhama Ki Tagore Premanandi Hari Bol. Glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
all the devotees for coming and visiting the temple on this special day. Every Sunday is a special day for us. So thank you for coming to the Transcendental Love Feast. This is our 50th year with Radha Govinda. This is our Golden Jubilee year. So it's been one long year of festivals. We had Rath Yatra Festival, we had Janmashtami, and a couple of days we're going to have Radhastami. So everything is coming up very quickly, so stay tuned. If you're not on our social media site, you should be. You can find the address on the front desk, or you can Google ISKCON NYC. That's our home website. And we encourage everyone to sign up there. And so you'll get all the event notices, you'll know what's happening in the spiritual world, and you'll be able to make it here. And we have Gopal Champu, who's supposed to be there. Here's Gopal Champu. Gopal Champu is going to tell you something very special that's coming up. And it won't take long, because then Mother Shilpa has more special things. But we also want to acknowledge all of our generous donors. We're changing the curtains on Radha Govinda's altar. So this, they're quite elaborate, and that's silk brocade. It's not cheap, but by your generosity, the cost has been covered, and we'll be buying the material and getting it done over. So thank you very much again for all your support. And here's Gopal Champu Guru.
So we have a very special opportunity coming up. It's called the Purnima. So just in 13 or 12 days from now, will be the 10th of September. We're staying in Bhagavatam. For those that are not familiar with the Bhagavatam, is the passage of Krishna is holding. We read from Bhagavatam every day. And so we have an opportunity, it's stated in Bhagavatam, that if you get a Bhagavatam or give a gift of Bhagavatam on this day of Purnima, the full moon day of Bhadra, you get a ticket to go back home after that. So everyone can participate. We have Bhagavatam sets available in English, Tamil, Telugu, Marathi, Gujarati, Bengali, Hindi, and Russian. So anybody who would like to get a Bhagavatam set for themselves or for someone else.
Chinese? What about Chinese?
So you can see me, you can comment my numbers are on the book table in front of you. Thank you very much.
And you told everybody, anyone who put the Bhagavatam in our house during it, right? You told them that. Okay, just want to make sure.
Would like to thank everybody, each and everybody who participated mentally, physically, and financially. We made it. It was the 50th anniversary of Golden Jubilee. So now we cannot forget Radharani. And Radhastami is coming this Friday. No, Saturday. Check our website. And if you have email or any contact information with the receptionist, you will get by email what's happening in this temple. And now we have to make even more gorgeous celebration of Srimati Radharani. So, because it is 50th anniversary. Next year it will slow down. But this is 50th anniversary. So, on Janmashtami, we offer 4 brand new dresses. 4 brand new dresses, including flower dress. Gardenia flower dress. So, on Janmashtami, at least we should offer. And the dress is sponsored. Going to come for darshan. So, we're going to celebrate Radhastami in the evening, starting 4:30. Then 5 to 6 is Abhishek, 6 to 7 is class, and 7 is I know so many people will be like wicked off. So mark your calendar. And don't forget, don't come and it. Bring some gift. So we can do a gorgeous celebration for Rangarani. The state, the best sponsor, but we still need sponsor for feast and altar decoration and gardenia garlands. So please see me what is needed and we can talk. So please mark your calendar that this Saturday we are going to have a gorgeous Ashtami celebration. We have a snack bar outside, and Gita Life class is downstairs in Lotus room. And Spanish class is in Govinda, right? That is Gopal Champu, contact me. And then today's feast is cooked by Chaitanya Ananda and his crew. Give them a big round of applause. It's very easy. They're starting So now, whoever wants to sponsor the feast, please contact me. You can celebrate your birthday, anniversary, engagement, graduation, at least 200 to 300 people. You're not going to invite them at home. You're not going to go for shopping and cooking and cleaning. We'll do everything for you. Just contact us. And yeah. Now, we need volunteers to serve up the prasadam, clean after that. So, Vishnu Prabhu, please raise your hand. Haribo! So that's it for today, but do not forget Saturday, this coming Saturday, September 3rd, Shri Radhastami Mahotsav ki jai! Please in class too. Okay, so Hasi Prabhu will be giving the class.
said that this verse is the essence of the Gita. Much commentary, much Bhakti Sangha Varna. Here Bharat Sangha Bhute Shu Yasama Ekti Pandava. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, free from the contamination of foolish activities and mental speculation, he who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of his life, and his friend to every living being, he certainly comes to me. It's a long purport, but we'll read and we'll discuss. The purport is Srila Prabhupada's explanation to these verses. With the benefit of having, in this line of disciple succession, a teacher who is presenting the philosophy purely, without any adulteration. So it's very important to hear these purports. The verse itself is very nice. You don't get a lot of meaning, depending on his level of realization. But the purport brings out, for our benefit, the realization of someone who is a self-realized soul, as is described in the fourth chapter. Once you try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, a teacher, and render service to him, and in this way, one can benefit, he can understand the truth, from that self-realized soul, because he has seen the truth. That Tathagata means one who has seen the truth. So we have to get this realization of one person. You can't go on the street and just stop and say, like a cartoon have, the person is seeking knowledge, he wants to know the truth. He climbs up to the top of the mountain, and he finds somebody there. And you ask this eternal question, who am I? But one person just can't answer that question. So now we have the Parampara telling us directly. So here it says, in the purport, anyone who wants to approach the supreme of all the personalities of Godhead on the Krishna Loka planet in the spiritual sky, and be intimately connected with the Supreme Personality of Krishna, must take this formula as stated by the Supreme Himself. Therefore, this verse is considered to be the essence of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a book directed to the conditioned souls who are engaged in the material world with the purpose of glory over nature and do not know the real spiritual life. The Bhagavad Gita is meant to show how one can understand existence and the eternal relationship with the Supreme Spirit, and to teach one how to go back home, back to God. Now here is the verse which clearly explains the process by which one can attain success in his spiritual activity, devotional service. As far as work is concerned, one should transfer his energy entirely to Krishna conscious activities. As stated in the Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.255, Anashaktasya Vishayan, Ekam Priyunjata, Nirvanda Krishna Sambandhe, Yuktam Bharagi Uchate. No work should be done by any man except in relationship to Krishna. This is called Krishna karma. One may be engaged in various activities, but one should not be attached to the result of his work. The result should be done only for Krishna. For example, one may be engaged in business. To transform that activity into Krishna consciousness, one has to do business with Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor of the business, and Krishna should enjoy the profit of the business. The businessman is in possession of thousands and thousands of dollars, and he has to offer all this to Krishna. He can do it. This is work for Krishna. Instead of constructing a building for a sense gratification, he can construct a nice temple for Krishna, and he can install the deity of Krishna. He can arrange for deity service as he is outlined in the authorized books of devotional service. This is all Krishna karma. One should not be attached to the result of his work, but that result should be offered to Krishna, and one should accept as prasad the remnant of all Krishna. So this is the essence in a nutshell. There are other verses in the Bhagavad Gita that are also considered to be the secret in a nutshell. As one studies Bhagavad Gita, he can appreciate in the various chapters, and he can extract the essence with the help of Srila Prabhupada. It is much easier to go through it methodically and that regard, we have classes every day. If anyone is in the neighborhood, we start at 8 a.m. There's a class on Sri Lanka. Doors are open. The DVDs are there, so that one can keep its impression as part of the rest of the day. And this karma that we're speaking about in the verse, everyone's heard this word now. It's come into the vernacular since Srila Prabhupada came. You know, there was other words like dharma. Some people have heard of dharma. So now we have dharma and karma. And they've entered into the vernacular everywhere in the world, practically speaking. This is a result of the interest which has been inculcated in Vedic tradition by the Parampara represented by Srila Prabhupada. We're very fortunate, and there's, if anyone has any questions on karma, especially, any of the devotees after class, and they'll explain that karma means action and reaction. Anything done in the material world has a reaction. Anyone who studied physics knows that for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. And in common language they say what goes around comes around. Everyone has heard that. So this is an axiomatic truth. You don't require to have an explanation. Everyone knows it innately that this is a fact. So it doesn't matter what your level of education is. As a matter of fact, a higher education might be an impact to understand because it's very difficult to, based on some misconceptions. You know, there's that old story about the famous music teacher. Maybe you've heard this. And he had two levels of payment that he expected, his fees. So whenever he would get a new student, he would interview them. And one of the questions he asked is that, have you had previous lessons? If they said yes, then he charged them more. And when they questioned why, he said, because I have to unteach you what you have previously learned. Okay? Whereas someone who is fresh, who has no previous learning, he's very easy to instruct in the proper fashion. So in this way, college in many respects is an impediment. Not that I'm discouraging people from going to college. Please continue your studies. But make sure that your studies are directed properly. That if you're really trying to understand life, because in previously college, all college, what is the highest degree you get in college? Who wants to say? What's that degree? PhD. What does PhD mean? Doctor of Philosophy. So all colleges were meant to bring a person up to that level, Doctor of Philosophy. It's not that you have a PhD in genetic science or some other sociology or mathematics. It was meant to bring a person up to the level of understanding who am I, who is God, what is our relationship, what is the goal of life. That's philosophy, understand the truth. The word philosophy means what in Latin? What's the breakdown in the root? It means love of truth, study of truth, or the love of truth. So there's no love of truth with regards to, many so-called degrees. Where is the truth in ever? Political science, where's the truth in that? The truth in that is that it's basically a distraction at best, or enhanced illusion. I am the source of all. Everything emanates from me. Knowledge. That we understand. Many people appreciate that, yes, God is the creator. But many people, they have a misconception that God is the creator of just what we see here in this one solar system, what to speak of this universe. Many don't even believe that there's life on other planets, or that there are many universes. But this conception, or now people do, because they have what? They're being instructed through movies, right? They don't get their education in college. Now they go to watch on the movie, so what do they call it? Multiverse, right? And that multiverse is just another small aspect of the complexity of the material world and all of its different levels of reality. Waking reality, sleeping, dreaming, subtle, all these different things, they're all there. So they have that multiverse concept. It exists, but not the way it's portrayed. If you want to know about the multiverse, you have to read Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, to start with Bhagavad Gita. And in this chapter, 11th chapter, we're reading about the universal form. So if anyone reads 11th chapter, he will understand more about the multiverse than his entire education up to this point. More than the PhDs, more than anyone else. Because Krishna is displaying the multiverse directly to Arjuna in the universal form. Everything is there simultaneously. Simultaneously. This concept of infinity is, what is infinity? What does it mean? It's difficult to explain because we're not on that level where we can comprehend certain aspects of even material existence. But infinity means without end. But what is that? What is that in our experience that is without end? There's nothing. Even they have limits on the universe. They say, no, it's expanding, and then it's contracting, then it's a rubber band, and then it's a big bang. They come up with so many different conceptions. They have no fix. Every few years, it's a different one. Because they don't know. But it gets them enough grant to make their next foolish, investigation. It's all about money. So we should not go and take instruction from cheating, trying to tell you something which is not a fact. If you want to know the fact, read Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and you will know everything. And when people speak, you will recognize whether that person has any real knowledge or not. Real knowledge begins from that level where we understand that I am not this body. So I am not even of this material world, technically. I am in this body. Every living entity has some envelope surrounding him, right? And humans, animals, even the germ. Oh, it's not a material part. It's not an atom without consciousness. It has consciousness, very covered consciousness. But it's alive. So if it's alive, that means it has spirit. We entities suffer simply for our sense gratification. Because that living entity is meant to evolve to a higher form. How did we get to the human form of life? Why are we in this human form of life? What is the benefit of this human form of life? That's all. Now that we've come to the human form of life, it is meant for our appreciation, self-realization. Who am I? So that's what the human form of life is for, to understand who am I. And then, therefore, we have these temples all over the world, and we have these gatherings, these Sunday love feasts, specifically so that people can have the opportunity to come in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books and his teachings. Everything is here. He spent his whole life preparing, essentially, to bring this to the Western world, English-speaking world. Otherwise, for thousands of years, it was all closed up, locked in Sanskrit, kept secret for the most part. Even people who could read Sanskrit couldn't understand the purport, the meaning. They had no idea. When they read verses like this, for there is neither birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, undying, ever-existing, primeval, and he is not slain when the body is slain. So when they read that, what can they understand? That the soul is never slain, and he's primeval, he's eternal. So that means it's not just this life. This life is 100 years. So where was I before? And where am I going to next? This is the goal of human. Why was I born? I don't want to become old. I don't want to be sick. Why? Because these things are all contradictions to the nature of the eternal spirit. I'm meant to be free. I'm meant to be eternal. I'm not meant to have to seek out pleasure through some horrible activity, which is only momentary in any case. But real happiness cannot be had simply on the material platform. But one can tap into that spiritual pleasure by joining in this congregational chanting. So you see how the devotees are happy. It doesn't matter where they are. They don't have to Columbus Circle, Washington Square, the Fulton Street subway. It doesn't matter. You have your happiness everywhere because wherever you have the holy names, you're in connection with the reservoir of pleasure, Sri Krishna himself. So this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Brings us up to that point, at the very end, where Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me, and I will deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. Very strong. Krishna is making a very strong offer. Abandon varieties of religion, because this is not considered religion. Religion is temporary. Faith can be changed. One day a person can be Hindu, one day a person can be Christian. It can change back and forth. But religion, dharma, never changes. Our relationship with God is eternal. If one understands that, then he's transcended material so-called religion. He doesn't need to be connected to any particular location. If he wants, he can wander freely, roam the Himalayas, the Gangetic Plain. Who's been up to Rishikesh and Hardwar? Who's been? A few people? Yes, a few people. How beautiful it is to be up in that atmosphere. These places are meant for meditation, to try to get as close as possible. For eons, great saints and sages have retreated to those mountains and many other places because they want to shut off the material world. But we have a better situation. We don't have to go any place. We can be in Brooklyn, we can be in Manhattan, we can be in Queens, Bronx, Staten Island. It doesn't matter. Above ground, underground. So this is an open secret that we want to share with everyone. You just have to participate in this Sankirtan movement, chanting the names of the Lord. Right? Who said it? George Harrison? Chanting the names of the Lord and you'll be free. Right? Why did he say it? Well, first of all, because he was a Krishna devotee. Many people don't know that. George Harrison was as they used to say. Chanting the name of the Lord and you'll be free. So we're just distributing this freely. There's no obligation. There's no cost. It can be done anywhere, anytime, under any circumstance. So please, we humbly invite you. Take the opportunity. Have mantra cards at the desk. If one likes to chant on beads, some people are accustomed to, then you can get some beads. They're very inexpensive, and they're an aid to meditation. But it's not necessary. One can just chant this mantra. The mantra means in Sanskrit, it means mantra to release mind. So, of course, chanting this mantra, one can become liberated. He can free the mind from the shackles of material misconception and illusion. This is a great gift. We're very grateful to have come in contact. And anyone who experienced this and had a genuine revelation, he won't hesitate to tell you the benefit. So please take the opportunity and chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shri Radha Govinda Ki Jai. We cordially invite you downstairs, and we're going to take questions now, but don't leave. Don't think it's the end. We serve out a sumptuous vegetarian feast, free of charge, in 15 minutes. So I just want to take the opportunity to open the floor for questions. And if anyone, and Jayananda Prabhu has a microphone he can pass around for the benefit of those who are listening at home. Any questions? Don't be shy. Otherwise, oh, yes, the young lady has a question.
So from what I understand, Krishna kind of encourages us to live in the material world and fight the battle. In the present world, it's very difficult because I still work in the corporate world, and it's the most ethical place. So what is your recommendation of fighting a fight but still believing in a higher...
That's a very good question. Thank you for asking it. Yeah, we're all confronted with situations where we would like to have the opportunity to be who we are without any restriction or reservation. So when we have the opportunity to chant, this, how can you say, I don't want to say but it counteracts the effect of any that we may encounter in our working life. It doesn't matter what you do. The chanting of the holy names is so powerful that it completely counteracts all the negative influence of activities which may appear to be, how can you say, less ethical. But one should not, and Krishna specifically gives one this encouragement in the Bhagavad Gita. He tells Arjuna, armed with knowledge, stand and fight. Now, Arjuna is already a qualified warrior. He was familiar with the fighting arts, every aspect of the fighting arts. So he didn't really need anything else. So why did Krishna tell him? He told him a few things. But armed with knowledge, stand and fight means now you know something more than just the material aspect of martial engagement. Because now you know why you're doing it. This is the problem with Arjuna. His dilemma was, why am I engaged in this fratricidal battle? I don't want to fight my grandfather, my teacher, my cousins. Because he was not understanding what is real Dharma. But Krishna had to enlighten him. And therefore, the Bhagavad Gita is the perfect textbook to accompany anyone in any path of life. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're on the battlefield in Afghanistan or Iraq, he can take shelter in the Bhagavad Gita and chanting Hare Krishna and bring peace to his mind, understanding that whatever he does in the performance of his duty, his higher duty to chant will counteract any of the negative effects. This is very important. Mostly everybody is engaged in the material world, in the corporate world. I was engaged also. For many years I did work that was very not something that people really take an interest to unless you have some, because it dealt with the lower modes of nature, investigating people's character. I was a detective for many years. So this is, you see people in they're the most weakened, compromised positions. So we want to understand how to, we have my ability to engage in that work for so long hinged purely on the ability to bathe in the Maha Mantra at the end of the day, during my day. Emerson, who was a famous writer, he was part of a group, they called themselves the Transcendentalists, Emerson, Thoreau, like that. He wrote about the Bhagavad Gita that I bathe my intellect in the verses, in the pages of Bhagavad Gita. Because it has that effect. It can wash away any things about how one is interacting with the material world. So don't think that this is a futile effort. That some people say, well, I said my prayers and I didn't get any benefit. There's some expectation like that. You know, the communists in the early days, they would trick people, because it's not a very nice situation when you have a revolution. The revolutions are accompanied by certain negative side effects. One of them is famine. Famine is not just that I'm hungry. Famine is that there's some manipulation to create a level of starvation for various interests. And so there was no food. And so the communists would drive around to all the churches where people were praying for relief, for some sign or some intervention. And they would come outside and the trucks would be lined up, the communist trucks, with all the soldiers, and they would say, did you pray to your God for bread? Did you get bread? And of course, this is not what religion is about, but they were exploiting the weakness of the people's mind at this time. They said, no, you didn't get bread, and then they pull back the cover of the truck. It would be filled with bread and other types of food. Here, take from us. We are your gods. So this is the upside way that the material world works, to trick you into thinking that you're dependent on something other than God's mercy. God's mercy is not something sentimental. God's mercy is there in the sun, is there in the fresh air that we breathe, is there in the fresh water we drink. Rasa hamap konteya, prabhashmi sushishoryo. What does Scripture say? I am the light of the sun and the moon, the taste in water, syllable om in Vedic mantras, the sound in ether, and the ability in man. All these things, none of this is coming from some man-made governmental agency. None of this is coming from any so-called political situation. It's all coming from God. But we're tricked into thinking that it's coming from some other source. So people become accustomed to this faulty way of thinking. Everything is ultimately coming from God. So even the bread that the communists were giving to the people who were eating, they didn't make the wheat. They didn't make the yeast or the salt. They didn't make anything. They just put it together. So actually everything did come from God. But people were bewildered. So we should have faith in the sense that whatever we want can be supplied by God. And this is there. It's in every religion. This is given clearly, but misunderstood. Because sometimes it's not directly said. And they have what they call parables. Parables are only understood from a specific angle of vision. In the Bhagavad Gita, there are no parables. Everything is crystal clear. Anyone who reads Bhagavad Gita gets knowledge directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The spiritual master is called the transparent via medium. Why? Because he doesn't interfere with the understanding. When you have a plate glass window, you can see everything on the other side. There's nothing clouding that. It's not tinted. It's not shaded. So the spiritual master is like that. He is simply the transparent via medium. Nothing added, nothing subtracted. But that's not true with other, unfortunately, other philosophies that have been interpreted and misinterpreted, reinterpreted. It's very important that these things are there like that. And one is free to study everything. But we humbly ask that if you get a chance in this lifetime, please study Bhagavad Gita. Just the name Bhagavad Gita. Does everyone know what Bhagavad Gita means? The celestial song of God. The celestial song of God. How beautiful is that? Huh? So everything in relationship to Krishna consciousness is wonderful. But one has to get the opportunity to taste it here and there. And so we begin the taste with a free feast. We try to cook very nicely. Some of our cooks are in training, so sometimes something may be a little less salty or a little more salty. Please forgive us. But our hearts are there to try to present to you as nice as possible that which can be offered to Krishna. Because we don't, the reason why it could be a little less salty, a little more salty, is because we don't taste things while we're cooking. Because we're cooking for Krishna. Everything is offered to him first. So you won't see anybody, putting a spoon in a pot and then sipping it, and then putting the spoon back in the pot. Everyone has seen that. Can you imagine how gross that is? Right on TV they do that. Right on TV. Stick something in the pot, put that spoon back in the pot again. Who can imagine? So we're all in training. We learn by experience how much salt to put in, for how much quantity, how much water to put in, how much sugar, everything. All done by learning, by experience. Because then everything has to be offered to Krishna untasted by us. He is the first one to taste it. So that's why this prasadam, what we're serving out downstairs, is special. It's not just ordinary food that we just threw together. It's lovingly prepared and then lovingly offered to the Supreme Lord. This is how we purify ourselves. This is what's called karma-free diet. Okay, people are worried about being this or that, being this or that. The main thing is karma-free. Because otherwise you're eating something and because who made that? Krishna made that. You think you paid for it in the store, but that's not the real exchange. The real exchange is that fruit that was made by Krishna. So if you're not offering it to him, then technically you're stealing it. Because he's the creator. Just like if I have a farm and you wander in, hop my fence, and go start picking fruit from my tree, you're a thief. So that's the case everywhere. Even the farmer who's growing it, he thinks it's his. It's not his. It's in his care, technically. Yes, and it's his hard work and his labor. But if he's not giving anything back to Krishna, then everything that he does has a negative reaction. Karma. It has a negative reaction. And that negative reaction builds up and builds up and builds up. And if you die with that negative balance, then you're not going to a nice place. So you want to become free from karma. And we're giving everyone this opportunity to eat karma-free food, to chant the holy names to purify our existence. When you leave here, you'll be free from all the karma that you walked in. This is just a fact. Whatever you came in with today is done. Now what you do once you leave the door, that's up to you. But every ounce of karma, every iota of karma that you came in with today is finished. It's done. You walk out with a clean slate. And if you chant Hare Krishna, you can keep it that way. And you can still go about your material activities and work in the corporate world and be a detective. You can do anything. You can be a soldier. Arjuna was a soldier. So you can do anything and chant the holy names and be free from any karma associated with that activity. So any other questions? Thank you for that question. Very nice question. Yes, Mataji has a question.
To confirm what you have said, it's really true. In Christianity, we have an example when Lord Jesus Christ was being crucified and he was handed by Pontius Pilate. And he said to him, don't you, and he asked him a question, and Lord Jesus Christ didn't answer. And he said, you don't answer me? Don't you know I have the power to free you or to those people? Jesus Christ doesn't have any power to you above.
Well, that
So,
Mataji,
like everything,
Okay.
I mean, you know, everything is been giving, even the food,
Yeah.
the thing,
Let me
everything,
respond
if they
to the
give us
first part.
food, is from, if it wasn't been given to them,
okay, well,
they
that's
will not
it's
be
a
able
good
to give it
point,
to
but
us.
let me respond to it so that everyone understands that Mataji was relaying the fact that when Christ was being crucified, there was some discourse, or prior to his, that Pilate was thinking execution, but actually for the soul, we already quoted that verse, for the soul there's never birth nor death. So what Christ was telling him, but they couldn't understand that, you can't kill me. You may think you're killing me. So that's, people think that they have the power. What is the ultimate power in the material world? The ability to take another person's life, they think, right? To control someone, and ultimately to take that person's life. That is the ultimate control. All right? If you examine all other aspects of power, in the final sense, that is it. So that that is your soul, that most, and that if one wants to be liberated, he has to achieve that level of realization, because that is what it's for. So, this opportunity again, the opportunity to become and everything else you do, you'll be acting on a platform of knowledge. Once you have that knowledge, then everything takes on a different perspective. You no longer act with the misconception that I am this body. You see everyone else. We used to advertise in the early days. We used to have these, one of them was called the peace formula, because during the Vietnam War, everyone was concerned. So that is there. Bhoktaram, Jagnatapasam, Sarlokameshwar. But the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Controller, He is the enjoyer of everything. He is the proprietor. Nothing belongs to us. When we understand that and stop trying to encroach upon others, crossing these political lines of demarcation. This is my country, this is your country, don't come here, don't come there. This is all illusion. We're all in the sense of being sons of God and daughters. But we're under the illusion that now I am American, or I'm Indian, or I'm Russian, or I'm Chinese. It's all illusion. I am spirit soul. We are all spirit souls. And when one has that, Pandita Samadarshana, the sage gives you the vision. The cow, the dog eater, the elephant. See, everybody the same. Because within the heart of every living entity. So that realization has to function on a different level, a completely different level. But you have to be in that situation. You have to want self-realization, knowledge. The promise of eternal happiness is not simply a promise. It is not that you have to die to go to heaven in order to enjoy. This is advertised, unfortunately, that you have to die for, no. Actually, in all the revealed scriptures, it describes that the kingdom of God is actually here if you know it. If you know it. Why? Because God is in everyone's heart. So you can immediately make this the kingdom of God if you make God your king. It's very simple. So who is the king of your life? Then act accordingly. Any other questions or comments? So I'm pretty sure we're ready for all of us to go down and take a wonderful prasadam. Don't mind if we all leave here at the same time, there'll be a little line. But there's plenty of prasadam. More for everybody. You can take first and seconds and thirds. You can fill yourself up to your neck, if you like, with prasadam. Don't be shy. Okay? And Gopal Champo has an announcement. Looking for his parents. Well, I'm sure that we can find his parents very... There they are. All children must remain supervised at all times. There's a big sign outside. All children must be supervised at all times. Shri Sharaghnadev ki. Yeah.